kills so much time off the clock. Chicago, another boomer down. JF is there. Back to Chicago. Shot and goal for Chicago.
Forces Violent Panda to buy time for Dignitas, and maybe that's what Vitality needed to finally get unstuck from their own half.
Scrub could end it here, and he does! Scrub with the solo play.
Hello and welcome to Esports in 30. This is the show where we take a deep dive into the different esports each day of the week, and today we got the decals. Nick likes to call them decals and wheels because it's all about Rocket League, baby. I'm Marissa, Roberto. This right here is Nicholas Doucet. And for those of you who are just joining us and wondering where the heck is Brody, sorry, it's me today because Brody decided to go on vacation. Whatever, we got Nick.
A, don't throw me under the grammar bus.
What?
And B, I don't miss Brody one bit.
Okay, great. Me too, Brody. You can eat it. Okay, let's move on and get into some RLCS Week 2. First up, we're going to start with the European highlights, so let's get to it.
And now an open chance for Kata, potentially, and throws a change-up!
Gives him with the change-up, man. He thought the shot was coming in hot. It comes in soft, and that's goal number 2 for Game 3.
And it has been Bluey on the back line so many times that he just keeps getting beat by this Vitality offense.
Momentum, the Vitality starting to build. Here's an opportunity for Devo. Hits it off the crossbar now.
Oh, miscommunication and a breakaway attempt.
Just the open goal syndrome of the easiest shots, the ones you miss the most, but
he will not hear the end of that. You know, a turbo pulse a reaction, and look at this!
Deflection to the side on a demolition on a Yukio. This is a good opportunity for PSG to get it past 2. Here comes Farron with the last shot to put it in and win the game. They want to do it. There's the one that can possibly work with, but Fruity cuts back in the tight rotation, and Farron with another shot on to sink it in. The nail in the coffin, put him in the ground.
Tadpole ends up giving it right back to I. Remco to I. Shot off the post and in. TSM. Mystic carrying this one. He's over one defender. He's got one more to beat. Lost it. Bump! Goal for Speed! The Bricks tie the game. Past the corner.
And Tigre almost caught himself a little too far forward. Speed tries to go back post. Alex is already there. And both teams making sure to get the balls on target. Mystic again opens the door. There's Cooks here. They missed the clear, and it'll be the Bricks. Forces Violent Panda to buy time for Dignitas, and maybe that's what Vitality needed to finally get unstuck from their own half.
Scrub could end it here, and he does! And now another double commit there for Dignitas, but it has been Kata. And now the bump play from Scrub yet again.
And as you can see, Vitality's dominant 2-0 puts them on top of the standings, while against literally everyone's predictions, Dignitas is dead friggin' last. Still, Europe is insanely close in the middle, which gives us so much to talk about. Let's start with Vitality, shall we, Nicholas? Because what? How?
Yeah.
What is going on?
They introduced both FC Barcelona and Dignitas to their good friend Owen. 0-3.
I'm like, wait, where's he going with this joke? And then he nails it. What happened here?
Vitality, I mean, Gregan last week when we talked to him said he was super confident heading into this week. PSG was their main obstacle because they got a little bit big for their britches and said they were never going to lose to PSG. And coming into this week, even though they're playing two insanely tough teams on paper, they really stepped it up. Their teamwork, their rotations, the striking was just all on point. Everything was clicking for Vitality. And on the side of FC Barcelona and Dignitas, which we'll get to in a second, it just wasn't working. This was just a fantastic performance by Dignitas.
Well,
sorry, by Vitality.
By Vitality, yeah, of course. But I mean, so KDOP obviously moved over, right? So how has he transformed Vitality in your eyes?
I think he's just smoothed out everything about this team in terms of their rotations, their communication. You know, when you've got a player who's been to the World Finals and won it as many times as he has, he certainly brings a more calming influence, I think, and he's really clutch as well, which is something that I think was missing from this team.
What do you think that maybe he's got the other teams read at this point because he's dominated over all the other teams with Dignitas? Dignitas, obviously he knows their strats, their plays, how they communicate. Obviously he can bring that into the fold as well. Yeah,
it's tough to say, but I mean, if you've played with a really excellent team like the former Dignitas roster, and then you're bringing that knowledge and that experience over to this team where Scrub, still just his second RLCS season, he's playing incredibly well, but sometimes we do forget he is still in school. He doesn't have time to do this full time just yet, and having a veteran presence like that who can get a read on their opponents really quickly, and obviously Fairy Peak has been around a long time as well. So having those players that are able to get those reads on opposing teams really fast is definitely a benefit to Vitality here.
I just love that he's keeping with the can't stop the KDOP. He's not letting that train die.
Not in the slightest.
Right? I do want to ask you though, does this make Vitality the new favorite in Europe to everyone?
I think so, although it's still pretty early to say, but the challenge, they really dealt with the main challenges that people thought, it's going to be Vitality, Dignitas, FC Barcelona as maybe our top 3 in Europe, but Europe is so insanely close all the time, but they absolutely manhandled them. I mean, FC Barcelona, it was a perfect series. 3-0, 0 goals. That is savage.
Well, we should talk about FC Barcelona, yeah, because, I mean, love that, FC Barcelona, #1, just jumping in, let's take charge.
I can't even imagine the pride that those players have putting on that jacket.
The jersey, yeah, the jacket, my goodness. But Vaudeville did mention, well, listen, we've all mentioned Bluey's attitude at one point or another.
It's come up every now and again.
Yeah. So is this a true test for Bluey then?
Yeah, I mean, I think what Gregan said last week is going to be true, which is when Bluey's teams in the past have faced issues, there's kind of been some internal sticking points around him. And, if you're going to get perfect series in the second week of league play against the team that theoretically, I'm sure FC Barcelona in their mind were like, we can beat Vitality, we can be the top team in this league. And they just got trounced, and that's got to hurt. I think that going into next week, whether or not FC Barcelona can bounce back or not, is really going to define this season for them.
Because I've seen Bluey on one of his lows, and it is actually pretty scary to be around. Like, I don't like being around that aura. Like, it seems really scary and low. Like, you don't even know how to interact with them, especially his teammates. They all get very silent when he was with PSG. So I'm just wondering if this camaraderie is different with this team, if you're seeing maybe there could be some spice there.
That's tough to say. I think that Devo, again, very experienced player, and obviously with FC Barcelona, they've got a new, I believe they have a new manager, a new coach. Like, they've got a lot of support structure around them. I'm sure that they're going to take this week to reset and come back, because it doesn't get any easier from here. Every week, as Gregan said last week, every single week you're going through the ringer in Europe, and even like the low-ranked teams like Triple Trouble and Mouse, you can't sleep on those teams or you're going to get bit badly.
Speaking of teams getting bit, Dignitas. What?
Yeah, not good.
What happened? They flopped hard.
Yeah, so starting the week, they played PSG, which again, on paper, should be a pretty clear win for Dignitas.
Yes.
But Yukio, I think, had a really poor series. He had a lot of misses. His touches weren't great. Something was just not clicking for Dignitas that day, and PSG had a fantastic series. And then going into the Vitality series, they had been 0-3'd. Vitality had just perfect series FC Barcelona. It was a different battle of momentum. One with all the momentum, the other one trying to bounce back, and it was just not happening.
I mean, how do you see the 3-time doing his performance? Like, I just don't know if this is going to affect them or him mentally.
I think, like we've said before, like I said before with other players, when you've been to the RLCS finals and won it 3 times, I mean, I think he knows how to keep it together. Turbo Pulsar is a great player, and I actually think he played pretty well. Not to say that there wasn't flashes of brilliance on Dignitas. We do still see every now and again, this is Dignitas. They still have that potential to just come in and play incredibly well.
Right.
But I just don't think that maybe the communication is there. Wasn't there this week. There was something happening in the comms, or their touches were going wrong, and then there was a little bit of tilt. It does happen, but this was not a good week for it to happen when you're playing, a contender for kind of upper middle of the pack in PSG, and then arguably a very, a top team, the top team now, Vitality.
So what's then the main difference between the dig that we saw at DreamHack and the dig that we're seeing now?
I think it's confidence and momentum, right? They got pretty badly beaten in the first week as well by FC Barcelona, and then they come to this next week and they immediately lose to PSG, and then they have to play Vitality, right? At this point, the confidence has got to be pretty low on Dignitas, but this is, like I said, just like any team in Europe, you cannot sleep on anybody, and there's no reason to believe that Dignitas can't bounce back, even though 0-3 in a 5-week season is a big hole.
Dig, man. They're just not eating their bananas in the morning. They got to eat their bananas before every match. Like, that's just the deal. Maybe they didn't have any. They need that potassium. No, they like bananas.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's all about
I remember
bananas,
that. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
all about the fiber, all about the, you just need it, potassium, before you start. I do want to talk about my loves from PSG just a little bit, because I still so much love Farah and Chaussette, the OGs. But how are you seeing them now shape up with this new season?
Well, when we were talking to Greg, and he said that they really needed to they need to see that momentum and to pull it together, since they were kind of in that upper middle of the pack, but never really quite breaking through. This week was absolutely the tonic that they needed 110%. Farah played unbelievably well. I thought he was fantastic. Chaussette popped off on a few goals, and we didn't see Fruity too much, but I actually don't think that's a bad thing. I think that it shows that, you know, if PSG, he sees that Farah and he sees that Chaussette are having a fantastic week, you know, he can take a bit more of a back seat and be a more supportive player and play his role if that needs to happen on the team, right? Whereas we saw towards the back end of the last season when they made their run, it was really Fruity carrying the torch on that one, and Farah and Chaussette supporting him. So it's nice to see there's a little bit of flexibility to PSG in that regard.
No, I do like that because you want to see the switch, right? Because with Bluey, and then Bluey was often the one leading charge as well, just because he was technically like team lead. So to see Fruity kind of take a step back is very interesting to see how that dynamic will shape out, because I would like to see these boys on top. I feel like they deserve it.
This is a team that has a good history and a lot of potential and a lot of talent. So, I mean, I feel like a broken record. We keep saying it, but Europe, man, it's just every single team, top to bottom. You look at it and you're like, man, maybe, you know, maybe PSG can win next week, or maybe they won't. But, you know, because Triple Trouble is so good, and you know, so it's just a whole mess.
Well, it's just fun to watch. But we should talk about the teams that are kind of close to getting chopped. TSM. Yeah,
so TSM, they had a good week. They beat Triple Trouble 3-0, but they're kind of they haven't played any of the top teams yet. I think they played Mouse and they played Triple Trouble so far. And they play FC Barcelona and Vitality next week, or this coming weekend, I should say. So this is the week that could, much like say for Dignitas and PSG, make or break their season, right? It's the halfway point.
You think they're gonna break that?
You're playing two top. Oh man, I mean, you're playing Vitality, and Vitality is on a heater. And TSM looked pretty rough during the off season. These two wins so far have been confidence builders for sure, and I think iGnite has been putting together a nice season for himself, but this is going to be a real test. And I will say, clean decals.
Decals, Nicholas.
We'll agree to disagree.
Okay, fine. Fair enough. I do want to, just to kind of close off on TSM, do you actually see them maybe stacking up against Vitality? Legitimately, like, am I putting any eggs, am I putting any bets on TSM at all? Or are they fully done?
I
feel like
so far Vitality has been really clean and dominant in their play. I think if there's a team that could potentially push Vitality and make them sweat and make them think, oh man, maybe if they are getting, I don't think they are, but if they are getting a little bit cocky after this insane week, maybe TSM has a chance to punish them, but it's going to be a tough road.
All right, let's move on to Bricks now. Which I'm not really down with the name.
The Bricks?
Yeah.
Better than X Flipside.
No, yeah.
What's wrong with the bricks? Tell me.
No, it's fine. But because like bricks to me, like that just means like you're throwing bricks. You're like they're heavy. They're not. There's no levity there, right? So does that mean like does that play to the personality on the teams? Does it play to like how they're performing? Are they performing as bricks, or how are they actually doing?
I have absolutely no. I think this is actually a legacy team name in Rocket League. Like it's been around for kind of for the unsponsored teams of.
Okay, so they just take on like we're the bricks now.
Exactly. Like I think this is kind of like an inherited name or whatever, but where it came from or what it means, I would love to know. If you got it in the comments, hit us up, because I have absolutely no idea where this came from.
Let us know. Okay, so X Flipside. Obviously, they have changed since Yukio was replaced, right? So how have you seen them grow? Do you feel like this is a good change for them?
It's tough to say, because in the first week, Speed was playing from Florida, and he had really high ping, and so their games were really, really close. And again, I think that their games were closer than they ought to be. Like we've seen Flipside with Yukio, they had some really, really strong results towards the back third of that team's existence. So it's a high bar to reach.
So you're really missing him.
I think that the comfort level that Yukio had on Flipside was higher than he has with Dignitas right now. But as we saw with Yukio when he first joined Flipside, it took some time. It took a while for them to kind of find their stride, and I don't see a reason why the Bricks can't get there. They've got Mystic, who's obviously a very experienced, fantastic player. Cooksier, one of the gods of Rocket League. So whether or not they make the playoffs, I think is the primary question. I don't think they can challenge as a top team yet. They should make the playoffs, though. I'm pretty confident they'll make the playoffs.
Fingers crossed for the Bricks. They'll have some kind of levity. Europe is so insanely full of storylines. I'm sure we could go on all day, of course, but we have to give North America some love, too. But before we move on, we've got an awesome guest calling in right now. And while we get to him on the line, check out these highlights.
Taken while to get to, just kills so much time off the clock. Chicago, another boomer down. JS is there, back to Chicago, shot, and goal for Chicago, gets the third. Kronovi again, looking for some space for his team. Tee out the Rizzo, Chicago, shot on, and it's a goal for G2! They win in Game 5 overtime! Oh, at the laser of a shot, just off the back wall, in front of the box, looking in and slips it through!
When Typical's up at Classics, nearly had him beat. Sathu comes in, Corrupted G wins the challenge, but AXB now back to Typical. Can Typical find AXB back up on the field, looking for the shot? A great 1-2-1 and go to tie the game. Long ways down the field, but Typical. Sathu thinks about it, but the field's front flip man maybe low on boost. Oh, down to Typical, he puts it in. What a positioning. RLCS keeping this one high. Justin now with control, looking for a goal against the defenders. Jay Winsbon and in. Justin puts it up, and that's NRG in the lead.
I didn't think this was gonna find the back of the net. Look at Justin getting the flip reset and past J-Wiz, past Karma.
Solid contact down the field. Garrett G puts it right back. Now following this one, wins against Karma now towards the box and finds the shot. Are you kidding me? Off the ceiling, he passes it to himself.
And oh my Garrett moment, look at this. 40 boost, gets the challenge, and saved his boost to go after that.
Can he set this up for his team? The pass out, Corrupted G is there. Rizzo wanted to commit, but Trippe was too close to the ball. Instead, he's rewarded with the ball in midfield. Off the back, Classics can't get there. Chicago wins. G2 win against Evil Geniuses.
So as you saw there, of course, the end of week 2 in North America, there's a much bigger division between the top and the bottom teams. No surprise to see C9 and NRG toward the top, with G2 leading everyone. SSG challenging and Ghost and Rogue sitting winless. Rip a friggin' dip. But thankfully, joining us today to talk all about NA RLCS, we have the newest face on the analyst desk and one heck of a player. It's Isaac Turtle Av. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, of course. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, man, you killed it on the desk the last couple weeks.
Yeah, it was nerve-wracking, but it was fun.
Of course, anytime you do something for the first time, it's going to be nerve-wracking, but you kind of slide right into it. You're just like OGing. I love it. Turtle, I want to start with the top of the pack, of course, with G2. Like, obviously, they're shining here, but is it going to be one of those things where they make a run and they shine for a long time, or do you see them slipping?
I mean, G2 has always been a team that's very, I guess, not inconsistent, but they like to keep games close, and that's with every team. I think in their history, just Rizzo and JNAPS in general, they usually go to lots of Game 5s, but they always close out series. And no matter the team, I feel like they always keep it very close, and I think that as the season progresses, they're going to keep doing the same thing, even with higher teams.
So G2's results, as you said, they've been doing pretty well, but they haven't really played any of the other top teams like C9 or NRG. And Brody, when he was talking to me about this week's games, he kind of mentioned maybe there's some inclination that's not a top 3. It's like a terrible twosome. As they are right now, do you think G2 can still slot into that top 3, or is it really a more clear division?
Right. I definitely think G2 can slide in that top 3 because, like I said, I don't know. This edition with Chicago, while it might seem a little bit shaky from time to time, I think that if they can pull through together, which they have over these, I guess, lower tier teams, then once they start facing NRG, it's kind of like a warm-up, if you know what I mean. They're literally warming up against the lower division teams to play against the top 3 and the top 2.
We need to talk about Ghost here because they seem to be in big trouble.
Not going so well.
Yeah, they've got really low offensive numbers. They have to beat G2 next week, but do you see this coming to fruition?
I really don't see it being a possibility. I think if they want a chance, they really need to start bringing Illusion in more into their rotations and possibly work on, I guess, developing a new strategy. And I mean, it's still possible, but with G2 and how they're looking so far, I don't think so.
So they mostly brought in Illusion, from what I understand, to kind of fill a defensive role. You think that maybe they should change that up to try and maybe break the system they have now to get some different results?
Exactly. A team like this, and a lower division team, I guess, coming into RLCS and getting a couple losses right out the gate for the first 2 weekends, what you want to do is you want to, right now, focus in scrims on changing your play style and changing your game up. So I think that we're going to see a different type of Ghost team, and hopefully it'll be more effective, but I still don't see them taking down G2.
Ooh, so like there's no chance at all that you think they're making it in, like they're done.
I mean, I don't want to be like negative about them. I mean, it's still possible. I'm just saying G2, I think they're a little bit too sturdy.
It's a tough road after going 0-3 in RLCS. There's only 5 weeks you really have to play every single week.
Rip those boys, I just love them so much. I do want to talk about C9, another group of boys that I love. They didn't start out slow like last week. So what's the status for our defending champions after 2 sweeps?
Oh man, C9 are always on top. I don't think that they have a really poor week in league play, and I think that comes down a lot to Torment being the consistent member in the back and just showing up on defense almost every single week.
So they haven't yet played. This is kind of similar to G2. We were saying they necessarily haven't played a top team yet. They don't play NRG until the very last game of the entire season. Do you see that as kind of being like the clash that could potentially decide first place if both teams go undefeated to that point?
Yeah, I think that's going to be probably one of the most anticipated games of the entire season, and probably one of the deciding factors as to who comes out on top.
Let's talk about EG here, because it seems like Drippe doesn't really know where he wants to be. Is that what you guys are seeing on the desk as well?
Right. Drippe is definitely a new mix-up. I think he does bring an interesting style from OCE, but I think he fits well. It just needs a little bit more practice and a little bit more time to mold with his team, but they've already been doing solid in league play, so I think that they're just going to keep progressing as a team and could be, a top contender in my opinion.
So they do play C9 and NRG next week, so it's definitely a really tough road for them to get back into that playoff position. Do you think that's, based on what you saw last week, just 1 week is enough time to potentially get them 1 win against either of these teams?
It's definitely enough time to solidify what they're already doing, but against top teams like C9 and NRG, you have to bring something new and something, I guess, surprising to the table, and a week might not be what they need to figure everything out, but I definitely think that they will have at least a couple games off of C9 and NRG, and with the, I believe they take not just a series score, but like individual games as well. I think if they can get a couple games on the board, that's really all they want to do.
We should talk SSG as well.
These new boys coming in, killing it.
Because they're the new babies. I mean, they officially challenged, of course, 3-0ing EG. Kind of crazy. So they look super solid, but accuracy seems to also be a bit of an issue with them. What are you guys seeing on the analyst desk?
I definitely agree with you. I think accuracy really is a major issue when it comes down to them and getting these shots in. But I do think that if they can somehow start looking for more cross-field pitches and passes where you're kind of clearing the ball horizontally, I think that's really where they can shine.
So one thing I noticed with both SSG and Splyce as the new teams coming out of the rival series is that they tend to look for passes primarily. They tend to do less solo plays and more passing first. Do you find that that's a trend that comes out of rival series because that's something that works in rival series, and maybe they need to bring that down a little bit in RLCS and be a little bit more bold in making those solo plays?
I definitely think that's a great point, because coming from the rival series, teams are more, I guess, team-oriented, and it's not a lot of 1v1s and a lot of individual player skills. But when you come into RLCS, it's kind of like a mix-up of both. You've got fantastic solo play and individual skill, and you've also got really great teamwork. And I think people coming in from the rival series think that they need to do everything as a team, which they definitely should. But going up against such high-level skills and such high-level defense, you have to show up in the 1v1 game.
We didn't really talk about NRG.
Not yet, no.
We should talk about
it
NRG.
feels like it's been business as usual for NRG.
Right? Okay, so they're just like killing it. They're doing fine. They'll be okay.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty decent read on NRG. They've played super, super well. I felt like maybe C9 and G2, the other two top teams, were a little bit slow starting last week, but NRG doesn't seem to have those problems. What's your read on NRG there, Turtle?
NRG has really never failed to show up in league play historically, and I think a lot of that does come down to Garrett, and I'm always going to be a big fan of Garrett. Garrett has probably one of the best mental games in Rocket League, in my opinion, and I think that what he brings to the table, not just in the game, but also as kind of like a team leader and just a presence on the field and in the comms, is something that not any other team has.
I want to talk about Splyce here too, because obviously they were 0-3'd by NRG. They seem to falter after early misses, and I don't know if they're just like broken by NRG or they were just shook by them in some way, but as an experienced player, what rookie mistakes can you actually see in Splyce's game that they should definitely clean up?
in Splice's game, I definitely see a little bit of some over-aggression when not needed and a little bit under-aggression when they don't need to. I think they need to figure out when to push up and when to be aggressive, especially with a player like Karma, who's always being in people's faces. I think she's a very good player in the midfield because she contests people frequently. She gets these crazy touches and awesome passes. I think if she can figure out when the best time to do that and not break rotation is, that's whenever the Splice is really going to pop off.
So for these new teams of SSG and Splice, I noticed that, like I said, their playstyles were kind of similar, but I just thought about this, which is, do you think that the lack of star power, like a big name score on both of these teams, could potentially hurt their ability to grow and make a challenge to the top spots in North America, like down the road this year?
Yeah, completely. I think that, like we were saying before, if you don't have a 1v1 game and a solid individual solo player who can take these individual challenges, because like I said, coming from the rival series, you have to, you know, you're obviously a well-functioning team together, but sometimes the individual skill might not be there yet because you're going against such high defense. So if you don't have a star player like that who can really make these crazy touches or get, you know, a solid flick or a 1v1 pass, then it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Turtle, it's been amazing chatting with you today, but we're all out of time with you. Thank you so much for calling in, and keep killing it on the caster desk, dude.
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
What a beauty. Excellent flow. He also is a musician, apparently, as well. He makes
if you
music.
haven't checked out his songs, they're very good.
Good kid. All right, Nick, we've got a few moments left before we have to say goodbye. So I do want to ask you a little bit about what's been happening in Rocket League, not just this week, but I feel like especially at the start of the season, a lot of people have been talking about the fact that this is just too quick of a season. Like, there's 2 seasons and they just go by too quickly because they're so short, and relegation just seems painful because of it.
Yeah, so I mean, we've brought it up on past, like last week, and we talked to Turtle about it. It's just every game and every matchup matters so much because it's a 5-week season. You're only playing 7 games total, or 7 matches total, and if you start losing 1 or 2 or 3, you could just be out of the playoffs by week 1, honestly. Like Ghost, I was talking to Brody, and Ghost went 0-2 in the first week, and I was like, is that it? Could that be their season right there? And so there has been a discussion about whether or not the league play should be doubled or even tripled in size, make it 10 weeks, 15 weeks, do 1 RLCS final, and that way the storylines can develop, the teams can really hit their stride. Because, for example, with Splice, you know, they're already 0-2, but they're brand new to the RLCS. It would feel really bad for them if they only get 5 weeks of experience and then all of a sudden they're fighting for relegation and they get relegated again. That sucks. So it would be great if there was a little bit more time to develop those storylines, get the players some more experience, and really hammer out who are the top teams. Like, I remember last season, Mousesports won their first 2 games and then lost the rest of the season and still made the playoffs at like 2-5. Which is ridiculous. It's insane to me, right? So I think that this is a discussion that needs to be had. Obviously, it can't happen this season because we're already in it.
We're already in the middle of it,
and it probably won't happen next season.
Which is crazy to say, like, it's week 2, oh, we're already in the middle of it. Because like next week is week 3 and like that's it.
That's literally the halfway point.
Which is crazy. Okay, so from my perspective, obviously you know that I just follow the money trail. So I feel like they broke this up into 2 seasons because then they can go in to have a grand final at both of the seasons, right? And they make some money too with plans coming in. They get to show off to their investors. It's a big play. It's a big play for these orgs to do that.
Yes and no. Now obviously we don't know necessarily all of the financials and finance or whatever, but you have to think that a finals like that is very expensive.
One is so expensive to do.
Would it not potentially be better to have just 1 bigger finals than 2 medium-sized finals?
I completely agree. I feel like they should follow really what the NFL does with 16 weeks. Let's do 16 weeks of play. Why not? And that you don't like it. That doesn't work. He doesn't like it.
No, it has to be 14 weeks.
Okay, whatever, Nick.
Because it's double round robin.
Oh my God, Kate, Nicopedia, I get it. Fine, 14 weeks, sure, we'll do it that way. We'll have.
Did you fail math?
We do the math, and then we have just a big grand final, but I don't know, I just don't understand why then we have to divide it into 2, or maybe they're just testing the waters, maybe they just want to see what works with fans and get community feedback.
I mean, it's been like this for 7 seasons now, probably 8 seasons by the end of the year. And with the implementation of the esports store, you know, maybe this is the time to make some adjustments to the RLCS, right? Like, partner with this esports initiative to really do potentially what is best for the teams. I mean, you'd have to ask the players and the teams what they want. I would lean towards probably most of them wanting a longer league play.
100.
Because on the side of the orgs, it's better, right? More games in the RLCS means more exposure for their org before they potentially get relegated, right?
Exactly, yeah. I would
And if you don't make the finals, only the top 3 make the finals, right? So more exposure, more games, more matches. In my opinion, it's better everything. But I would love to see if there's any downsides, if you guys think there's any downsides to extending league play.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously let us know in the chat. We want to hear from you. I just love hearing from these communities because it's the communities that make these everything, all of these genres shine. So we have to give back to the community and what they want and what they need, and maybe feel like less of this dance between one side or another. Sure, like I would like to have Brody here more often too, and like maybe this season could be short. Oh no, you don't want that? Okay, no, Brody, just stay away.
Take my spot.
No, not at all. I just want more for these kids. I want them to have longevity in this scene, and I feel like Rocket League should technically be where Overwatch is right now. I feel like Rocket League should be there, and we should be seeing this on broadcast television more often because it's a great family game, you know?
Can't argue with that.
Okay, good. I like it when you don't argue with me, Nick. Love you. Love that you were on the couch with me today. And that's all the time we have for Rocket League. But thanks again to Turtle for calling in. And as always, thank you for watching. Reminder, there's no show tomorrow or Monday because of the holiday here in Canada. But we'll be back on Tuesday to talk Overwatch League with Ron and AJ. Till then, hit us up on the socials and have a good one.